Braves win 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers over the weekend and set up for a series win tonight, but they could have had a sweep. We'll break it down on this episode of Braves Today. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Monday, September 16th. Your home for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. He's Christian Rauh. You can follow him on Twitter at Christian S. Rauh, R-A-U-H. You can follow the show on Twitter at Braves_today. We're on Facebook at the same name as well. And you can find all of our written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack. And Christian, Atlanta wins 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers this weekend. Offense looks pretty good in the first 2 games, and you are now back to tied with the New York Mets in the wild card race with the possibility of winning the series tonight against LA. But here's the thing. I think that you could be going for a sweep tonight if everything went right on Sunday. And it feels, I don't want to speak for you. It feels to me more like Atlanta lost on Sunday than LA won.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to say that, especially just how the way that the ninth inning ended. I don't blame. I'm sure we're going to dive into it, but I don't blame them deciding to walk Otani after he had the hot bat all night. I'm sure that is going to be a topic of discussion all day. I know it has been across social media last night. I'm sure that won't stop until the game goes on tonight. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Braves lost that game, but overall, Lindsay, I think we're in a better spot than what many predicted heading into the weekend, going in for the fact that we, at worst, are going to split the series if we lose the game tonight, which is a lot better than what I read in some of the comments on our Braves Today Facebook page when we were prepping for this series. And now we have a chance to actually win the series, you know, stay in the NL wild card race, which is important. I am wearing as much colors as I possibly can today because I didn't have to wear any black other than my hat, the signature backwards hat here. Shout out
Right.
Pitching Ninja. But other than that, no, I think you're right. I think other than that ninth inning yesterday, I think the Braves played some pretty dang good baseball this weekend.
Yeah. Let me just real briefly looking at the first 2 games. Game 1, 6-2 Atlanta victory on Friday night. Spencer Schwellenbach gets the win, 2 runs on 4 hits in 6 innings, 1 walk to 6 strikeouts. Gives up a homer to Miguel Rojas, but other than that, it's doing pretty well. The Braves whack Landon Knack. 5 runs on 7 hits in 2 innings. Just Gio Urshela gets a homer. Jorge Soler gets a homer. Matt Olson doubles in there. Obviously, they do pretty well. They take game 1. Game 2, more of the same. 10-1 Braves. Chris Sale, another amazing outing. 1 run on 5 hits in 6 innings, 2 walks to 6 strikeouts. They take it to Jack Flaherty. 4 runs on 5 hits in just 3 innings, 4 walks to 4 strikeouts. So 2 games where LA has to get into the bullpen early. And it feels like that's going to be huge when you get into Sunday because on the Friday's preview, we talked about Walker Buehler has not been good recently. Walker Buehler has not gone deep into games recently. So what happens on Sunday? Walker Buehler goes 6 innings, 2 runs, only 1 of them is earned on 3 hits, despite walking 5 guys in the 9-2 victory. Did you expect this out of Walker Buehler? And what happened with that?
Yeah, I didn't expect it, but I'm not quite surprised because eventually I think he had to figure it out, and he didn't figure it out yet since his return this season. Now we're looking at a spot where we were talking when we were previewing this game on Friday that maybe Walker Buehler is going to be auditioning for a potential roster spot on the Braves playoff roster. Now, I think with the injury news that we've heard from the Dodgers over the weekend and how his performance went, we're probably not just seeing him on the roster, Lindsay. We're probably seeing him as the 3rd pitcher for the Dodgers in the postseason, which is quite a surprise, quite a jump up just based on this last start. But I think that's where we're at. But between the pitching that we've seen against the Braves this weekend, Buehler stepped up, but Flaherty took a step back. It was his worst start of his entire Dodgers career since the trade deadline. I guess you just take that one as it is. It's a nice little balancing act, if you will. Buehler stepped up a little bit, but Flaherty fell. And that's why the Braves were able to take 2 of 3. And you gotta love what you saw from Jorge Soler. That is something that you have been asking for. I know I put a piece out last week and trying to just like motivate Soler, if you will. Maybe he read the blog. Welcome aboard, by the way, if you did. But him actually stepping up and doing some good things at the plate, really since the National Series, has been nice, and I hope that continues.
Yeah, Jorge Soler on the weekend so far, 4 for 7. He's got a home run. He's scored 3 runs. He's driven in 2, only struck out once, which is nice. And to your note, since that Washington series, he's batting, it's only 232, but if you shorten it up and you say since the Colorado series, you're looking at a guy who's batting 324 with a 954 OPS. So in the last 10 games, only 1 homer, but 6 extra base hits, 5 RBI, 7 runs, and a 954 OPS. So it feels like he's starting to get going. Same thing with Matt Olson. Feels like Matt Olson's finally starting to get going here late. And it's what you need for Atlanta to make the postseason. The thing here that I wanted, the thing that I had said in the open was you could have been going for a sweep today. And this Sunday game was frustrating, right? Charlie Morton, 6 innings, 1 run on 3 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, second consecutive quality start against LA because he gave you 2 runs on 5 hits on May 3rd in Dodger Stadium in a loss. And he was a little bit outside of normal type. He threw more fastballs than curveballs, which for Charlie Morton is weird. He leads baseball in curveball usage among starting pitchers, right? It's like him, Aaron Nola, I think is 3rd or maybe 2nd, but he leads baseball in like non-fastball usage. But 41 fastballs, 35 curveballs. He gets 7 whiffs on the fastball, 6 on the curveball. And he didn't let the big 3 beat him, which was a theme in these first 3 games. Shohei Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman combined for 1 hit off of Charlie Morton. Now, that was an RBI double by Ohtani in the 5th. But the point is, Charlie Morton, Atlanta starters as a whole, did not let the big 3 beat him. But Atlanta did a lot of stuff poorly heading before you get to that 9th inning, and we'll get to that in a second, that giant Dodgers offensive explosion. Dylan Lee, in there in the 7th inning, took a pitch clock violation with a full count to put Will Smith on base. It's just like he froze. I don't really know what happened there. Will Smith comes around to score. So Dylan Lee got hit with a blown save there. The Braves had a chance to score in the 8th. Marcelo Ozuna walks. They replace him with Eli White to pinch run. Matt Olson hits a double. You got runners on 2nd and 3rd with no outs. And Atlanta doesn't score. This kind of gets back a little bit, I think, to what Chipper talked about. We talked about this on the Thursday podcast, the offensive approach. Travis d'Arnaud swings at some pitches outside of the zone. Granted, it was a full count. He was trying to protect. Hits a weak fly out to shallow left field. Not deep enough to score Eli White. But Orlando Arcia strikes out and on 5 pitches. And if you're watching on YouTube, I've got the 5 pitches up on the screen. None of the 5 pitches were in the strike zone. He strikes out on 5 pitches, and none of them were strikes. Like pitch number 4 that elevated, it was a 2-1 fastball. It was at least somewhat close to the zone, but none of these, Michael Kopech is pitching him up and in, and he swings at almost all of these pitches except for the slider almost in the dirt and the fastball that was way up like head height. Everything else he swings at. None of them are in the zone. None of them go into play, obviously. And then Jared Kelenic ends the inning with a 3-pitch strikeout. I will say, though, at least on him, they were in the zone. They were all heaters, 100 miles an hour or harder off of Michael Kopech. But again, they were at least in the zone. Orlando Arcia strikes out with pitches outside of the zone. This doesn't even count Kelenic in the 9th when it looked like the game was already getting away with what should have been a defensive error, letting a ground ball go under his glove in left field. Atlanta had chances to win this game and did not do it. And so it's hard for me to say that, yeah, the Dodgers exploded for 7 runs in the 9th, but Atlanta had chances to put this game away and just didn't take them.
Yeah, hopefully that they can shift the momentum back their way for the series finale on Monday, because right now the Dodgers are holding it all. And yeah, you stop that big three, and you want to even add the big four if you want to add Teoscar Hernandez into that mix. You stop the top of the Dodgers lineup for the most part, but that bottom of the lineup, Lindsay, is almost turning into a monster itself for the Dodgers with Tommy Edman and Max Muncy. They have one of the most dangerous offensive lineups in all of baseball, and that's what money will do for you. And sure, that's a narrative that we can continue and have. But regardless of the fact, is that's a really good baseball club that they're playing, and the fact that you have an opportunity in September when they are fighting to hold on to the National League West, something that we didn't expect to have this conversation on just 2 weeks ago. This Braves team is looking good. They just need to continue that offensive pace that they had at the beginning of the weekend, because we have seen all season long, but especially in the second half, that they have these peaks and valleys. And it is nice that the peak was at least 2 games instead of 1 game and then 4 games down. We have to hopefully see that they can continue it and bring it into Monday. One little final thing on Arcia, and I know that we probably shouldn't talk much about it because it's a little frustrating, but obviously that was a terrible at bat. He is he has struggled. He's back to his ways. His last 30 games, he's only batting 184. In his last 7, he's only batting 160 with a 320 slug, only 25% getting on base in those times as well. I think this is probably an offseason question, but I'm going to put it out into the universe now. I think that the Braves are going to have to look to improve that shortstop position in the offseason.
Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation amongst the fan base that the Braves are going to make a run on Willie Adames. There's a lot of reasons why that doesn't make a lot of sense with what Atlanta does, and we'll break down as we get once we get some finality on the actual season. Are we going to play in October or not? I'm going to have a deep dive on Braves today about the contract decisions you have to make. We'll talk about previewing free agency and how you can improve the roster and all of that. But it feels like Orlando Arcia is the defense is solid, right? You're fine with the defense. I don't think he's as good as the reputation, but I think his defense is fine. But I think you're at the point now of realizing that his offense is not good enough, or his defense is not good enough to make up for the liability that his bat is 90% of the time. And you're in a situation where you're going to have to look to improve. I don't know if they go out and sign a guy or if they try to get Nacho Alvarez ready. I don't know if they get a bridge utility guy that they could start if they need to. It's just you're not in a great place, I think, at the moment with your shortstop offense and that position as a whole. We got to figure that out. But again, that'll be probably an off-season thing once we get some finality on does Atlanta make the postseason or not. And speaking of finale tonight, and then looking at what the Mets did. We'll break all of that down next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back into Braves Today. Lindsay, Crosby, Christian, Rauh. Reminder, you can find all of our written work, bravestoday.com. I dropped a prospect breakout piece over the weekend looking at some of the prospects that really made a name for themselves this season. Now that Rome and Augusta are done with their seasons, Mississippi just finished their final home game, and Gwinnett's going into the final week of their season. So tonight, Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Max Fried. Atlanta's never faced Yamamoto. He's coming back. He's made 1 start since coming back from that rotator cuff injury. Only 4 innings against the Cubs, 3 hits, 1 run, no walks to 8 strikeouts. Looked really good in that outing. Flip side, Atlanta's got Max Fried. He took the loss last time he faced them back in May. 4 runs on 4 hits, 3 walks to 7 strikeouts in 7 innings, including 2 homers. How confident are you that Atlanta can get the series win tonight?
I'm confident, and I think that does all start with Max Fried for sure. He had a pretty rough outing in his last time, and it wasn't rough when you look at compared to other pitchers, but for Max Fried, it certainly was. With that loss against the Nationals, he
Right.
allowed 11 hits in that one, and he struggled to stop getting the Nationals on base. He hit a lot of things out to left field. Uh, he he changed his pitching arsenal a little bit. He went with the sweeper instead of the slider, and although he did get 6 strikeouts in the game, He still allowed 4 runs, and it's something that just we're not expecting to see from Max Fried, especially in September. So I'm looking to see what kind of adjustments he's going to make because obviously there will be some. He seems to try to get ahead of the curve, and that's what we saw last week as well. So we'll see how
Mhm.
he does in this outing. But based on this entire weekend, I think we're still going to see some waterfall effects from this bullpen. This bullpen is taxed. This Dodgers bullpen is
Yeah.
taxed, Lindsay. And although Yamamoto is a great pitcher, we only saw him throw 59 pitches in his last outing. There's no way he's going to get stretched out to 90 or 95. I think at most we'll probably see I'm gonna say at most 75 pitches from Yamamoto tonight. 80 might be a stretch, but I'm thinking 75 is the max. They're slowly trying to stretch him up and get ready for the postseason. So, although this is an important game for the Dodgers to continue and stay ahead of the Padres for the National League West, because the Padres are chasing them, I think their eye is pushed towards October, and I don't think that they're going to push Yamamoto any farther than 5 innings, 70, 75 pitches.
Yeah. One of my favorite tools online, RotoWire, the fantasy baseball people, they have a bullpen usage chart where they show you pitch counts over the last 5 days. They add up your last three and your last five and things like that. And when you break 20 something pitches in your last 3 days, it goes from white to like light orange and it goes orange and then it goes to red and all that. Six different Dodgers relievers have thrown 20 or more pitches in the last 3 days. Yeah, Michael Kopech pitched on Wednesday through 22, pitched on Sunday through 23. Based on the usage of him, he's probably down. Blake Trinan threw 12 pitches last night. They like to give him multiple days of rest. He's probably down. You've got some long men available. Michael Grove last pitched on Friday through 29. Brent Honeywell through 32 on Friday. But Brusar Gratterall pitched last night, coming back from injury. They don't want to use him on back-to-back days. So Kopech's not there. Gratterall's not there. And then both Alex Vesey and Evan Phillips, they threw 20 plus pitches on Saturday. So you probably can bring them back on Monday. But I feel like you don't have the two most dangerous arms in Gratterall and Kopech, your guys who were pumping 100 plus out there. So it feels like it shouldn't be as intimidating. It's still, I feel like they have enough to get through tonight, but it's probably not the ideal mix. And the sooner you can get Yamamoto out of the game, the better it's going to be for Atlanta. The issue, and you saw this against Walker Buehler, I think he had 3 consecutive 9 pitch innings. And even after he left, some of the relievers that first came in, 9 pitch innings. It wasn't until I think the ninth, or maybe the eighth, where a pitcher had to throw more than 9 pitches against Atlanta in an inning. It was like the first time since a third inning or something nuts like that. Because the offensive approaches here, they're swinging early, they're not taking pitches, and that's my concern is you get a guy in Yamamoto who is coming second start back from injury. He didn't walk anybody last time, but we don't know how many strikes he's going to be throwing. You have to be able to take some pitches. Plus, you've never seen him. You have to be able to take some pitches. You have to be able to work some counts, get his pitch count up, and get him out of the game. And that's just not something they were able to do on Sunday when I felt like that was the best opportunity of the 3 games to really do that. And so that's the frustration here. And that's what I'm looking for tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. Putting into perspective, those 59 pitches that Yamamoto threw last outing, 42 of them were strikes. So it's going to be tough for Braves batters, in my opinion, to be patient and to make him throw pitches because most of them are going to be in the strike zone.
Yeah.
But looking at what you mentioned, to me, this is the game plan. That has to be. You try and push Yamamoto out as fast as possible. I completely agree with that because when you get to the bullpen, to what players are remaining, as you mentioned, some of those long relievers, that's when you're going to have your best chance. I think this is when you have to find a way to keep it close. Max Fried needs to do his job and basically just go 1 for 1 with Yamamoto. He doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to be flashy, he doesn't have to do anything, but he just has to keep it close because I think when you get to the bullpen tonight, the Braves have a really good chance. You mentioned a guy like Honeywell, who, yes, if you look at his season wide numbers, has a sub 3 ERA, Lindsay, but in 6 of his last 8 outings, he's allowed at least 1 run. In 4 of his last 5, he's allowed at least one run or more. So that is something that put into consideration. The Braves can get to this bullpen, especially some of those long relief guys that might go more than 1 inning. Sure, but That's something to keep in mind, and I think that is an important aspect when you're trying to win this series.
Yeah, Freed's been really good at avoiding barrels this year. His 5.3% barrel rate's pretty good. I worry about we see Freed sometimes go from a whiff guy to a weak contact kind of guy. I worry about the sustainability of trying to generate weak contact against this Dodgers team when you have a Shohei Ohtani, you have a Mookie Betts, you even have guys like Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, who just hit the crap out of the ball, right? Hard hit percentages for a lot of these guys are in the upper 40%. Obviously, Shohei's almost 60%. It's nuts. But I just worry about the sustainability of a weak contact approach for Freed against the Dodgers. We'll see what happens, obviously. And that the way he does that, he plays it by ear based on how the outings going so far. But another question I want to present to you, though, we saw over the weekend the Arizona Diamondbacks needed a walk off in extras to avoid being swept by the Milwaukee Brewers. And so the wild card race now, they're only 2 games up on Atlanta in New York. Is it possible that both the Braves and the Mets make the postseason at the Diamondbacks expense?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. Now, I've if the Braves offense continues to do what they've done 2 of the last 3 days, then I think the Braves' chances of getting into October are quite high, Lindsay. And what we've seen from teams in the past is if you make the dance, you have a chance. It doesn't matter if you win your division or not. Let's bring it back to last year. Okay, let's get that hope and that optimism back one more time. The Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks last year, both teams made the World Series. We're both wild card teams. Okay, so the division is out of reach. That's okay. The postseason is the only thing that matters. But when you
Mhm.
look at those two teams of who are going to be left, because right now the Padres are chasing the Los Angeles Dodgers for the National League West. So both those teams are probably going to be either the winner of the division and the top wild card. So you got 3 teams
Yeah.
left: the Diamondbacks, the Braves, the Mets to hold 2 spots. There is a strong possibility that the Diamondbacks could fall out and the Mets could sneak in there with the Braves to be the 2 and the 3 and the final wild card. I will say this about the Mets, though, and we're going to hear more about that today. Francisco Lindor left this weekend twice with injury, having an MRI on his back. If bad news comes from Lindor, that is going to be bad news for the Mets, and that might even hurt their playoff chances even more. And might just do it. It will definitely hurt their playoff chances moving forward, and that might be a good thing for the Diamondbacks. But to answer your question in a very long-winded answer, Lindsay, yes, there is a very good chance that both the Braves and the Mets will see October.
Yeah, I of the 3 teams, the Mets, Diamondbacks, and Braves, I like Atlanta's position the best. They have the easiest of the 3 for strength of schedule. 493, it's under 500, obviously. 3 against the Royals, very last series of the year. The Royals may not have anything to play for at that point. They may already be locked into a wild card seed. 3 against the Mets, obviously that's going to be huge, and 1 left against the Dodgers. The Mets have the Phillies for 4 more still. They've got 3 against the Brewers as well, and then 3 against Atlanta. And then Arizona's got 4 against the Brewers and 3 against the Padres. So if you're the Braves, you're a Phillies fan and you're a Phillies fan and a Brewers fan right now. You need both those teams to do well against the Mets and the Diamondbacks just to give you the little bit of help. But then obviously, like we've been saying this whole time, you handle your business and you are in. That's what you have to. You have to handle your business, and if you can do that, then you are in. So we'll see what happens.
How much has this Dodgers series? I know that they lost the game last night, but how much has that changed the confidence of this team between you and I? Because last week there was a moment where I know you were below 50% on thinking this team was going to make the postseason. That seems to have changed a little bit after seeing what they've done against these Dodgers teams this weekend.
Yeah, seeing that the offense could do it against good pitching, right? Jack Flaherty's a good pitcher. I don't. He had a bad outing. He's a good pitcher. Seeing that they could do it makes me feel a little better. I still don't want to say I'm above 50% though. And I think that's part of that's just being scarred from how this whole season's gone. But yeah, I'm gonna say 50%. Let's do that. Let's say 50%.
So what needs to happen tonight against Yamamoto? Obviously, one of the top pitchers in baseball when healthy. He got paid for it for a reason.
Yeah.
What needs to happen with this Braves offense tonight to make that go to 51%, Lindsay?
I I you need to see more of the approach from over the weekend. You need to see the hits, you need to see the power, you need to not have the 9 pitch innings. You need to not strike out on pitches out of the zone. It's going to come down to, can your offense produce against a good pitcher? Because so often this year, when you've been on a streak, you've had one or two good offensive outings. All of a sudden, you go cold again for 4 days, right? You get shut out by Cincinnati, or you drop 2 out of 3 to Washington. And if Atlanta can come out, I don't necessarily think you have to win. I think you have to be competitive for me to feel a little bit better about it. Obviously, you need the win, right? It's every game matters at this point. But I think if you can be more competitive than you were in, it's hard. It feels weird to say you weren't competitive on Sunday. The game was tied in the eighth, but you had so many opportunities to, I'm gonna say, put that game away, and you didn't do it.
Yeah.
If you can have more success in those situations, I think I'd feel better about your chances and put you above 50%. How about you?
Look at me turning the tables and asking the tough questions. No, I agree. I think we need to see just more offensive progression. I don't want to see a valley again. As I keep mentioning with these peaks and valleys, you had a great Friday and Saturday. It was a little subpar yesterday with the offense. I just want to see some improvement. And I'd love to see a Marcelo Ozuna home run too. So let me get that.
Get him off that skid. This has been Braves Today for Monday, September 16th. We'll be back with you tomorrow to talk about what happened in that series finale against the Dodgers, look at the trip to Cincinnati to take on the Reds, and more looks at the playoff picture. You can find all of our written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack. If you're listening on audio, do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we drop a new video, and we will see you tomorrow on Braves Today.